very good evening to everyone present here. My name is Anupurnima and I will be your host for today. The theme for this week is climate action. And on that note, I would like to welcome you all to a discussion on understanding climate change presented by VONG SDG Cafe. With the same regard, I would like to extend a warm welcome to Ms. Aditi Muradia. She's a master's student studying climate science and policy from Terry School of Advanced Studies. Her hobbies include baking and doing calligraphy. In addition to interning at Think Through Consulting, she's also facilitating many non-profit organizations to transform their operations towards sustainability. Ms. Muradia is passionate about taking meaningful immediate action for the climate crisis and aims to see a world where there is just transition towards a better future. A very warm welcome, ma'am. Orion Square is an initiative of Omaisha Foundation, a non-profit organization that focuses on nurturing conscious global citizens. We are focused on accelerating the adoption of sustainable practices by the planet to try and save it from catastrophic consequences, where it seems headed to with its current growth trajectory. We believe that this is only possible by building an understanding of the issues among the new generation, and bolstering their voices is very critical for achieving this Orion Square. For this, Orion Square has promoted the VONG movement, which is about bolstering the voice of the new generation to accelerate the adoption of sustainable practices by the global community. The VONG movement helps in building a deeper understanding of global social issues amongst the new generation and enables them to influence the attitudes of the society through this understanding. Sustainable Development Goal 13, titled Climate Action, is one of the 17 SDGs. In the same regard, the first question is, what is exactly meant by climate action?
Hi, thank you so much for this warm welcome and for inviting me here. Climate action is something, so first of all, we need to understand what is going on with respect to climate, what is climate change. So as I'm going to be in very layman terms, I'm going to explain it. So as you can see, what is climate? Climate is cumulative weather, average of weather condition of a place in a long for a long amount of time, 30 years or so. So now this climate is shifting. Now it is changing. For example, here in Delhi, I'm from Delhi, so I've been experiencing really hot summers since I was a child. But now it is not just really hot summers. It has become very unbearable hot summers. The temperatures, of course, in May, June, we experience some temperatures sometimes over 40 degrees. We used to experience that earlier, like 6-7 years ago. But today, only in April, the temperature, in fact, in March, the temperatures were beyond 40 degrees Celsius. And today, the government has, the IMD has, they have talked about having an orange alert in Delhi because the temperatures are going beyond 47 degrees Celsius and heat waves have become very usual thing in Delhi now. So this is just a small example of that the climate is changing. Now, it is not just, so when the climate is changing, it is showing its impacts through various things. For example, the heat waves are one of the examples of extreme weather conditions or extreme weather events. But these extreme weather events could be thunderstorm as well. So in last year in India, the monsoon was stronger than usual. Now, it would be a good thing for Indian farmers if the monsoon was stronger than usual and if it was good, but no. So the monsoon is spread, usually it is spread from the month of June to September. Okay, but so we experience all over the Indian subcontinent rain, which is evenly spread over this period. But what we are experiencing for the past year or 2 years, that the rainfall is erratic. By erratic, it means when it pours cats and dogs, when it pours a lot. When it rains, the rainfall intensity is so loud, so much that it is very difficult for our infrastructure, even for our farmers to have that much water in their fields, and that leads to waterlogging. So it's like, so if I ask you if you're hungry and if I give you food, and I'll say, okay, if I'll give you 10 days worth of food at one time, instead of giving adequate portion of food in 10 days. So of course, you cannot eat that much food at one time, and the rest of the days, the rest of the 9 days, you're going to be very, very hungry without any food. So this is what is happening in India with respect to monsoon due to climate change. Now, when we talk about climate action, so the climate change is happening because of the amount of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. Overall, it has increased. Now, we all have studied about greenhouse gases and global warming, that there are certain gases that are very much required in our Earth's atmosphere because they keep us warm. They trap sun's heat energy and they keep us warm during the night. Those are greenhouse gases: carbon dioxide, methane, oxides of sulfur and nitrogen. But what is happening due to industrial revolution? When we burn fossil fuels, we've been burning fossil fuels since the industrial revolution began in Europe. So this burning of fossil fuel has resulted in the amount of carbon dioxide. If what we do, we measure it in ppm. It has gone beyond the levels that our atmosphere can take. So that is leading to global warming. So it is not just heating of the earth, everything else, due to global warming, the additional impacts can be seen with respect to climate change. Now, what we should do, we should first stop putting more carbon in the atmosphere. So that is called the mitigation of climate change. Mitigation means stopping, reducing climate change by reducing the greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere. So for that, the climate action to be taken is what are the sources of these greenhouse gas emissions, and we should look for alternatives of them. For example, if we are driving vehicles on petrol and diesel, we should look for electric vehicles. If we are generating our power through coal power plants, we should look for alternative solutions. For example, renewable power, which includes solar, wind, and tidal, hydropower, and so on. Now, second part of climate action is adaptation. So half of the world right now, even more than that, they still think that the climate change is coming. But no, the climate change is already here. So the sixth assessment report of IPCC says that climate change is irreversible now. Even if we don't stop our emission right now, right here, it is still irreversible. The impacts of climate change is still going to be felt for years coming down the line. So now we are facing these impacts, so we need to do something. For example, if I'm feeling really hot in these summers, I'm going to turn on the air conditioner. If I do not have air conditioners in my house, I have to install them. Now, this part is called adaptation. I have to adapt to the new environment. See what happens when you get a little cold. So if I live in Delhi and suddenly I am making plans to go, suppose in Alps in Switzerland. So now there's going to be snow all around. It's going to be really cold. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to wear the usual clothes that I'm wearing in Delhi, the thin cotton clothes. I will adapt to the weather there. I will wear warm clothes. I will wear coats and everything. Now, when we talk about adaptation to the impacts of climate change, it varies. It's not just wearing more or less clothes. It's about, so for example, we are going to require more air conditioner to reduce the impact of heat wave. So the country would require a high power generating systems. The capacity of our power generating systems need to be increased. So that's one form of adaptation. Second, for example, we see that due to the impacts of climate change, we are receiving the intensity as well as the frequency of cyclones that is happening. I'll tell you. So why cyclones happen? They happen because the sea surface temperatures, they increase. So now that creates cyclone. And now, since Bay of Bengal is comparatively hotter sea than Arabian Sea, so we expect many cyclones. They occur in Bay of Bengal every year, and in fact, the government has placed advisory system, and to fight with those cyclones, to protect people and everything. Now, these cyclones, in 1 year, we expect one strong cyclone and several small cyclones that even sometimes many of them they they dissipate before they do landfall. But now the same thing is happening in Arabian Sea as Arabian Sea is getting hotter. So this is what is a cyclone? Cyclone is a natural disaster. So we need natural disaster relief measures post disaster. We need is set up in Arabian Sea as well. We need pre-disaster preparedness in the western coast of India as well. So that is another form of adaptation. Adaptation is a very important part of climate action. Now, third important part is reducing the vulnerability of communities. Now, what is vulnerability? Now, I am sitting in my house in air conditioner, so I am less vulnerable to heat waves. But suppose your parents or you as people, you want to go to school. Now, summer vacation is a part of adaptation. Okay, we can change the dates of summer vacation, and or we can have online classes. That is adaptation. And we are saying, okay, let's not go to school. Let's take online classes because of heat waves. Or let's work from home because of heat waves. But then there are people that still have to work outside. Their students, if they do not go to school, they will not receive education. And there are people who do not have home anyway. They are literally, they're sleeping on the footpaths. They do not have anything. Now, those people, they are highly vulnerable groups because they are in direct contact. They do not have anywhere to go when there is a heat wave. So to reduce the vulnerability of these communities, of people who are really vulnerable, or for example, farmers are really vulnerable to climate change because due to extreme weather events, their crops are going to get damaged due to anything, due to heavy rainfall or due to droughts. So we need specific plans to reduce their vulnerability. For example, for people on streets, we need shelter homes, and during heat waves, we also need air-conditioned shelter homes. So these three are parts of climate action: the mitigation, the adaptation, and the reducing the vulnerability part.
Understood. Thank you. Why is climate change considered as such a huge threat?
I think I explained this in my previous answer only. The impacts of climate change are going to disturb and destroy the entire world community. For some, it's just staying at home during heat waves. For some, the disaster is going to wipe out their entire livelihood and lives of people. In fact, we can expect, okay, so you know that people know about Rohingya migration. So they are vulnerable communities that they do not have any place in Myanmar. So they are migrating or taking refuge in Bangladesh and in India. So, and then we also know about civil war going in Middle East and Syria and all. Due to ISIS, people have to migrate. They have to take refuge in other places. Now imagine migration due to climate change. So Mumbai, Mumbai is going to be under waters in less than a century. Now, where will those people go? Mumbai is economic capital of our country. It has even on the coast there are large number of businesses and the economy is coming from it. So because of climate change, we are going to experience population migration because they need to seek refuge in some places. Because of climate change, we are going to experience large frequencies and intensities of disaster. Because of climate change, we are also going to experience passive disasters like heat waves and cold waves, where we is the government considering heat wave as a disaster? No, we still have to go to our offices and colleges. We still have to go to our schools. It's not a disaster according to the government. So there's going to be food shortage because of climate change. As we can see, the climate change would affect the productivity of agriculture in different countries, everywhere actually. So if the production go less, there's going to be food shortage. So, and if there is going to be food shortage, if there's going to be a shortage in resources, the world communities are going to fight over it. We can expect wars over it. So climate change it is already happening and it is not good for us.
So is India a climatically just country?
I believe that a climatically just country needs to take its climate action very seriously. And I don't think that India is a climatically just country. Last year, I did this study to find out what Delhi is doing for its climate action. So I'll tell you, each and every state in India, they have to maintain a SAPCC, that is State Action Plan on Climate Change. Firstly, all the SAPCCs. So Paris Agreement came in 2015. So that is when after signing the Paris Agreement, all our governments, they got very active. At least we have to show some reports in our country. We have to show some paperwork. So they asked respective states to perform SAPCC, State Action for Climate Change, State Action Plan for Climate Change. So they sat down, they made it. And for Delhi, I studied Delhi's SAPCC. So what I found that first, the climate action, according to them, is only the mitigation part. And according to them, introducing electric buses, EVs in Delhi, or maybe setting up some power plants, solar power plants or renewables. That's climate action plan for them. There's no provision for mitigation. Sorry, there's no provision for adaptation or reducing vulnerabilities of people. And that's not just seen in Delhi. You see, Delhi government has ample of resources, and so it would imply good officers, good scientists to sit down and form that plan. So what about other states in India? What about Bihar? Do you think Bihar's priority could be climate change when there's a huge amount of poverty in that state? So all of these state action climate plans, first, they're below standards. Second, they are outdated. If climate change is happening, if we are experiencing the impacts year after year, then I think such a document needs to be dynamic, needs to be updated very often. But there's only one such document that every state has, and that's very outdated, 2017 or 2008. And third, even in that document, what boastfully Delhi government was saying, that they have 9% of power, 9% of power that is renewably sourced. So even if suppose I buy an electric vehicle and I charge it from the electricity that I buy from the grid, but by the grid, I mean what the standard electricity that comes to our home. What's the point? I am just charging my EV from thermally generated power generated by coal. So if you see, the efficiency of my EV would be less than just directly using a petrol vehicle. So no, I don't think that India is a climatically just country. Its net zero targets go till 2070, and I don't even know if many areas of 2007, areas of India, cities of India, or even villages, they are going to survive by 2070 due to climate change. So no, I don't think India is a climatically just country.
Okay, then how can we become climatically just?
We need to focus more on what we are presenting in our NDCs, for example. We need to take stronger climate action. Firstly, to take stronger climate action, we need good R&D or research and development in this area. So when my journey, when I wanted to study more about climate change, I was so shocked and disappointed that only one or two institutions in all over India, those are two private institutions, they provide such a master's. Even when I saw curriculum of environmental science, master's in environmental science of Delhi University, which is the best university in the country, it's so outdated. It barely talks about climate change. So when our youth is not, it's not taught what is happening and how to take action or how to change it, if our youth is not made aware, then imagine our politicians or bureaucrats sitting up there. According to them, climate change is just heat waves coming, or just some strange Paris Agreement that the country signed in 2015, or floods coming in, or droughts coming in, or for them it could be just reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. So when the first line of action is have a strong R&D, the schools should need to be in the school curriculum, in the CBSE curriculum, this needs to be taught. You guys are taught about global warming, so why not climate change as well? Second, the new courses should be, the skill of learning about climate change, how can it be mitigated, how to form plans. This needs to be taught in colleges or universities. Then, so we have Ministry of, earlier it was just Ministry of Forest and Environment. Ministry of Environment and Forest. Now today it is Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So that's a good positive change, but just changing the name of the ministry doesn't help. So now in India, it is said that decisions are taken from grassroots to top, although it is not practically true. Practically, it happens top to bottom. But what is grassroots to top? So on top, we have central government, and then we have several state governments, and then we have local governments called Panchayati Raj system, or municipalities and cities. Now they also are the decision making and implementing bodies in our political system. So at the grassroots, these municipalities, these panchayats, they need to understand what is happening. They need to be trained on this. Training on various things they happen. Panchayats, they are trained about waste management systems, so they can also be trained about taking climate action. They can be trained about what happens when IMD tells that there's an orange alert. So they need to be trained about it. Then India's nationally determined contributions, NDCs, they need to be more ambitious and work needs to be done. So first, if you know that India's NDC, it's about, so earlier, India committed 40% of its cumulative electric power would come from renewables by 2030. Now, Mr. Modi at COP26, he updated it as 50% by 2030. Now, I see it as false promises, because again, new power plants are being set up. Okay, what would be more power hungry? A village in UP or a city like Delhi? A city like Delhi is really power hungry. It has huge population, huge businesses, offices, restaurants, and everything. Delhi NCR, now it requires a really large amount of power. And how it is being powered? It is powered by coal power plants. So to become a climatically just country, first, every citizen of India should work towards climate action, and it cannot work towards climate action out of their own pockets. India has net zero target by 2070. That means $10 trillion of investment by till 2070 to be this. But India's economy does not cost this much. India is aiming to be a $5 trillion economy soon. So when it's like, if I give you a reality, on paper, even NDCs, they are this 10 trillion thing that what India would need to have net zero by 2070 is not calculated by the government. It is not given by the government. These figures are from CWCEF study. CW is one of the pioneer institutes that are working in climate action. Or such a study tells even the government should listen to them, that if India requires such amount of investment, that India needs to start putting money there. But you can see that it's only in papers. The money is still not there. The funds are still not there for projects for climate action. So if they put money firstly, if people are aware about it, if government starts to invest in R&D as well as the projects, so then India can be called that, okay, yes, it is climatically just country, it is taking climate action.
Okay, so previously you spoke a bit about the Paris Agreement. So what are the initiatives taken by India with regard to the Paris Agreement?
Okay, so initiatives is a very broad term. It is called nationally determined contributions. So India's intended nationally determined contributions are there. So what it's like, again, on paper, what India promises, that what India would do to take climate action. It is, for example, it says that it will reduce its greenhouse gas emission intensity as a percentage of its GDP by 33 to 35% by 2030. Now that percentage is calculated from the 2005 levels, and trust me, from 2005 to currently 2022, it has just increased, not decreased yet. So by 2030, it aims to decrease this emission. Secondly, 40% of electric power would be generated from renewables. That is true. Mr. Modi his policies are towards renewables. So very slowly, the renewable energy, solar energy, wind energy, these power plants are being set up very, very slowly. In fact, for this, it's not just the power plants being set up. If you and I, we want to have a solar rooftop at our home, so the government is providing us subsidies to purchase that and to have it installed. Although it will still be slightly expensive and maintenance will be slightly higher than what we pay for the electricity anyway. So many people are not encouraged by it. Then again, the government, India as its NDC, it promises to have additional carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. Now, what is a carbon sink? Okay, so we've studied about photosynthesis. We breathe in oxygen, we breathe out carbon dioxide. But to make the food, what plants do, they take in the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and then they give out oxygen, right? So that's simple photosynthesis. Now, if we have good amount of forest, if we have, it's not just forest, even your water bodies, the oceans, they are also good sinks. By sink, I mean how carbon dioxide can be stored. So this extra carbon dioxide that is suspended in the atmosphere, it needs to go somewhere. We know the sources, which is burning of fossil fuels. So instead of just being in the atmosphere, how about it is absorbed by our forest or by our oceans? So these are the things. So in this regard, India already had good amount of forest, and the latest forest survey shows that the amount of forest has increased. So in India, so the carbon sink, I'm not sure if this is about the numbers. If this is 2.5 or 3 billion to tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, I don't know about if these numbers are exactly reached or they're in the position of being reached, but India is working in this area.
This year, we experienced the hottest April in about 122 years, as per IMD reports. Does this have an impact on the life expectancy of humans?
Yes, of course. So our life expectancy would reduce because of the drastic heat waves that we are experiencing. Now, medically, how it will happen, I'm not really sure. I'm not a specialist in that area, but this will reduce life expectancy, especially of the most vulnerable people who do not have access to air conditioners. In fact, we would see that many people we don't have government data right now, but after the end of the season, we would have the government data that how many people actually died because of heat waves. So the people who are living in who do not have homes, who are living in non-air conditioned shelter homes or directly sleeping on the streets, they are the most affected, and many of them would lose their lives, and they will continue losing their lives. And overall, even us who do have access to air conditioner, but still, of course. So what we do, we live in air conditioned homes, then sleep in there. We get up, then we go and travel through, the heat, and then we then go to our offices or schools which are air conditioned. So our body it experiences rapid transition between very hot and very cold. So yeah, that is also going to somehow affect our organs inside.
Got it. Could you please talk about microclimate changes that our cities have gone through and the threat that they pose?
So there is this concept called urban heat island effect. So living in Delhi, we have Haryana and UP, Punjab. So the entire North Indian belt, the climate should be, overall similar here. The entire North India belt is experiencing heat wave. But even during the summers, when there is not heat wave, it's still very, 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 very hot in Delhi. But when you go to areas, villages in adjacent Haryana, or some Jhajjar village, or in adjacent UP, when you cross Noida and Vaishali, when you go to villages in UP. So it is slightly cooler there. There's a little breeze. We may not even it could be heat wave in Delhi, but it is not heat wave there. So the reason is some surfaces like greenhouse gases, they absorb sun's heat and then radiate it slowly during the night. Similarly, there are some surfaces that absorb heat. They're called black bodies, and then they radiate that heat. So these surfaces are concrete, asphalt which is in our roads, concrete, dark colored concrete from which our buildings are made. So our cities are made of such materials, and so a microclimate is formed. So let me just draw a simple diagram. So I tried. Okay, so if we can see this little bubble, it's a city, and the rest of the area is not urbanized. So this little bubble will have its own microclimate that will be a little hotter because of urban heat island effect, as the buildings, the roads that are there, they are going to absorb more heat and then radiate it in the atmosphere. So their microclimate will be hotter. Secondly, there's pollution. We have industries in the cities, we have vehicular emissions in the cities. So because of that, there will be air pollution. So the microclimate of this little bubble will be different from the rest of the area. So, so the microclimate of the cities would be worse, and cities would not. In fact, it is soon. Even today, it feels like it is an uninhabitable place.
Agriculture is also a leading cause of greenhouse gas emission. India is an agriculture dependent country and the population is booming. How would you suggest we take action to mitigate this?
To mitigate what?
The greenhouse gas emission from agriculture.
Okay, greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture. That is very like, okay, so I did a study about, it's not directly related to agriculture, but it is related to the flora and fauna. So I did a study about wetlands, and I found that many wetlands, they emit methane instead of, being just sinks, but many, they act as sinks as well. So how are agriculture, they are sources of, the sources of emission is first, when we burn stubble, so there's direct emissions. But second, when a plant, so when we harvest and that plant, it will get decomposed. So the process of decomposition also releases methane and other nitrous gases in the atmosphere, which are greenhouse gases. But when you compare it, so this agriculture was happening around 10,000 years ago as well. It is still happening today. It's not, agriculture is not the culprit. Agriculture is not the culprit to reduce in fact, the meat hungry world, it is, many climate scientists, they try to tell, okay, how about you go vegan, you just eat plant products or plant-based meat and don't have the actual beef, because that meat industry, not in India, but so there's huge meat industry in America. So they emit more methane, more greenhouse gases as compared to agriculture worldwide. So agriculture is not the culprit, and instead of making plans of how to reduce because we have a huge population to feed, as you said, we need to ensure the food security for the entire population of the world. So agriculture, we should not think about mitigating emissions from agriculture. Rather, we should think about other sources which are emitting really good amount of gases.
Final question. What is your opinion about VONG?
Okay, so I think, like I said, that to take climate action, first we need to get the masses aware.
Yeah.
And that is what VONG is doing. And I'm really happy that students like you guys are not only interested here, you're actively participating here. So I'm really grateful for such platforms like VONG who are there to spread awareness. See, you're a student, I'm also a student. It doesn't matter because the situation in our hands, we do not need rocket scientists to explain it. We do not need climate scientists to explain it. We can still talk about it. It is there. So VONG is making this happen. VONG is making sure that at least people are aware about it. So I think it's doing a tremendous job.
Thank you, Ms. Muradia, for such an enlightening and entertaining session. We appreciate you taking out time from your busy schedule to speak to us, and it's been our pleasure to have you here with us. We look forward to seeing you again for such discussions. Thank you.
Thank you so much.